Hey, how's it going, everybody? Brothers, sisters, family, friends. It's the minister here with KPOT. I'm going to have a new program, and I'm just starting it today. And it's called What the Fuck is Going On? Everything is weird in the world right now, but our current country and its politics is gotten out of hand. And really it has. So there was something that grabbed my attention today while I was watching some other news sources, and of course they cited some other news sources. So I went to the sightings, to see what actually was going on, and I understood a little bit about what this gentleman was talking about, um, and what is going on currently with our current president and his people um, that are in the White House are starting to cross lines with what our Constitution actually says and states. Even state leaders are actually that are involved in these same political ideals in that group are going along with it and actually trying to change the state's laws in education. So, what the big deal is Oklahoma, again, uh, they are trying to incorporate a different story and with supposed truth uh, or evidence showing that the 2020 election was fraudulent. Um, of course, this administration, when losing that election, went through so many courts to try to provide evidence to show these courts, look, it's this easy. And yeah, I think it was like 60 some times they were shut down. Even judges that were, within this party even shut them down. So now that somehow he has won again, um, and his people have, won uh, in these swing states, they have taken over, because he has put all these people that will kiss his hind end and lick his boots clean, that they will do exactly what they say. Now, they are really trying to push this whole, oh, poor Christianity, blah, 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 wah, 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 you know. I will let you know this right now. This current version of Christianity is not biblical. Actually, they kind of are, but I'm not on the side they think they are. They are considered the scapegoat Christians. If you want to get in to that, biblical outlining of who these individuals are, I will do that on another video to show you and prove to you that these Christian nationalists, that the MAGA involvement in these is very scary, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so in Nazi Germany, when the Nazi regime took hold, they tried a great deal of things to overcome that country's own constitution, which they ended up doing. And once they crossed that line, is when things got really bad. We have a current president that is continuously trying to cross this line. Um, and with the power he's got, it isn't until our judicial system that knows he's crossing this line stops him but he isn't reacting immediately to these judicial reports. Okay, now, you, until Nazi Germany went past their own constitution, is when they started really gathering people up at millions, and even in different countries. Let me give you something from Britannica, and this is, the Holocaust part of this in the Nazi Party and what had happened in 1933. Okay, so Adolf Hitler's accession to power in 1933, the Nazis set out to reconstruct the German society, and to do that, the totalitarian government attempted to exert complete control over the populace. So in order to do that, they're going to have to start with the children in schools, all right? It's perfect because maybe that whole generation not be connected, but if they get to them kids, then the next generation, boom, yeah. So every institution was infused with National Socialist ideology, and it infiltrated by Nazi personnel in chief positions. Schools were no exception. Even before coming to power, Hitler, in Mein Kampf, My Struggle, had hinted at his plans for broad educational exploitation. Excuse me. Um, Reading this and knowing what's going on right now kind of makes me a little nervous because Oklahoma then wants to put this curriculum in their schools, teaching a different outlook on the 2020 election than what 60 some judges have said was fake. It, what's going on? Not only is this president denying court order from judges when it is not constitutionally correct for him to do that. That's why we have a three-part government, and with all of them with the equal powers. So not one power can be the only power. That's the whole reason we have this. It makes sense, but we've never come to this point where a president is so strong and wanting to test the walls of our Constitution. A lot of these times I hear these MAGA people that speak. Representative, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a big mouth right now, and I got to be honest with you, she's getting better at speaking her baloney. But no matter, she definitely is trying to make a historical reverse on history. The Romans did this. No doubt they did this. They did it with that Bible. Yeah, they took control of it. And then they made only what they wanted to be put into German and English. Yeah, if you could actually find a philologist that will help you to understand what the Greek version, the first version of the Bible actually says. And there's all kinds of programs you can actually go and get, and you'll find out what the real truth is and who Jesus was and who the Hebrews were. But that's another story. The fact is, Christianity that we know it today is not even close to what even the English biblical Jesus says or does. It's scary. because not only that, if you remember last year, Associated Press, AP, of course, the Trump administration, they don't like these guys too much. So if that's the case, I think they must be doing something right. Oklahoma State superintendent orders schools to teach the Bible in grades 5 through 12. Really? I wonder if he's going to allow them to read that passage on those women who liked horse sized dicks. How about the one where Lot's two daughters got him drunk and then both had sex with him? Yeah, there's some pretty good stuff in the Bible. If it was, like a rated R movie, a lot of times we do get to see the violence, supposed violence with the, righteous good against the, unrighteous evil, according to their outline of what's good or bad, which is pretty much brainwashed into everybody right now. Across the world, almost every religion has these set of never do type of rules, or, you're going to burn forever in this horrible place. It's all baloney. It's all baloney. None of this is historically correct. These three major religions from the Abrahamic uh, lineage is nothing but a huge hoax. It really is. I've got a friend right now, and I call him my friend. We really don't know each other, but he is someone that I watch on a regular basis. He is a philologist. He has studied somewhat on the Dead Sea Scrolls, there in Israel. So he is also done and helped out on some archaeological digs in Gehenna, I think it was. So I might be wrong in that. Maybe it was Armageddon or something. I'll have to check that out. But that's my poor memory right at this moment. But he has helped me to look in lexicons and getting a lot of people to try to learn classical Greek, and so I'm stuck on it, and I am working at it. And but he has a whole different view because he's not a philologist, but he has been a Christian. He has saved people until he started to learn, until he saw the muse and got a hold of the muse, and he started to learn the actual history of what the Septuagint Bible says. And he got on to this point where he says there is no physical proof whatsoever of a Hebrew Bible before the Septuagint. And of course there isn't. He's a head archaeologist on that work right there in Jerusalem and Israel. All the biblical places, that we would know if you're, a Christian or whatever religion, if you just study that, you'll know about the areas that Jesus walked around in. These are places as archaeologists work in, places from antiquity. And they tell you there is nothing beyond 200 to 300 BCE on Israelite Hebrew writings. Even coins that they have found aren't as old as that 250 to about 350 BCE. So that's crazy. The Septuagint is the only proof, and it was not, how do I say it, translated into English factually. Oh yeah, there's a lot of differences. Yeah, a lot of differences. And I just hope that you will say, this guy don't know what he's talking about, and start researching it yourself, and you'll find out what I'm saying is correct. And that's not from me. These are from The people I learned from, people that have taught in colleges, um, people that are not on the good list, but you can't prove him wrong. He'll go up against any theologist that thinks he knows the Bible or she knows the Bible. It doesn't matter. I know I'm going to throw that out because he wants to get gigs together right now to try to get the truth out there. And the truth really needs to get out there because these three religions have devastated our world for the last, oh my, I, what? Almost 2,000 years, guys? You know? Yeah, ever since the Roman Empire fell apart and the Roman Catholic Empire took over. Well, and then, and I I hate to think that, I'm saying this or that bad about any person, but I'm not. I'm talking about a group of people that are trying to change what history says, like the Romans did with what Jesus really was. They took that Christianity and they made it what they wanted. They wanted a submissive type of people that will be in so fear of their afterlife and where they're going that they will do exactly what any government says. Now, there's, of course, those that won't, the resistance. And, those are my people. We've been resistant, you know. We're the gypsies. um, we are not to go anywhere. But America is the land of the gathering gypsies, all right? There's a lot of us here, and you can see them. They're everywhere, in the Smoky Mountains, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia. There's the real American people. And I'm going to say this too, even though them are white people, they're not the only ones. We've got the Native Americans that have been here almost 25,000 years in some spots. We have black people that we have records that were here before white people, and the white people came and thought they were Native Americans. And that's been whole baloney, man. The black people have been here longer than white people. But, the white people came. They came with this power that was given to them somehow or another. And they tried to overtake the world and make it theirs, just like the Romans did, just like the Persians did, just like the Greeks did. It's a pattern for every one of these governments. Continuously, it's about them powering the world and taking over the world and having that financial, riches, and that power is a high for them. For some people, they're like crackheads; they just have to have it. But we put them guys on the pedestal, no matter, because they're addicted, no doubt, you know what I mean, to that power. But we put them on a pedestal. But our Constitution clearly says that we do have the freedom of religion, but we should also have the freedom from religion. And the reason these guys did this, our forefathers back in that time, coming from England, is because who led? The king. And the king, along with the Roman Catholic Church. And people would root everything for hundreds of years. Yeah, they went around and got rid of the Vikings, that had been coming around all the European countries. And, that's what's that St. Patty's Day is all about, is St. Patrick going to Ireland and chasing out all the serpents, snakes. And they don't have no snakes in Ireland, never have. But he's talking about those worshippers of the dragon, of the serpent, which were the Vikings. So this is all factual. And now we have this MAGA group wanting to teach their false narrative of history again in another way. I just read you from Britannica. what Hitler's plan was. And they knew this even in his writing, Mein Kampf, okay? Now, there at that time, 1933, the Ministry of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda exercised control over virtually every form of expression, right? Expression, yeah. That's in our Constitution. Freedom of expression. Okay? Trump likes to call the opposite side liars when they want to express themselves, right? He's actually kicked AP News out of the Oval Office, during press conferences. He loves to say who is the good reporters and who are the bad liars. Yeah, look, I've always learned that the person that screams they did it first usually is the guilty one, trying to point the finger someone else to try to curve those people looking at them. So it goes to the other person. They do it all the time. He's done it all the time. Oh, look, they cheated. But here, I think that dude had cheated all three. Except he didn't cheat as well as Democrats. That's the difference between Republicans and Democrats. If you ask me, is Democrats are just smart enough not to get caught. You know, I would rather have them people in charge, really. If they can't get caught doing it wrong, they're pretty smart. But yeah, Republicans don't care. They have to be brutal, malicious. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're gonna beat you up. We got our guns. It's like, yeah, you guys don't understand what you're doing. They say that, learning from history, makes it so we don't repeat it. Bullshit. It gives people ideas to repeat it, Oh, if I would have done it this way, we'd have won, or in a manner like that, Yeah, if I went against Alexander the Great, I would have positioned here, and, just things in that manner. I'm just, being a little facetious on this, but it's factual. But we're seeing this right in front of our eyes. So history has changed before. They scratched out a lot of writings about Jesus even back in those days. The Romans did. They tried to get rid of everything they called a lie. You know what I mean? False. And some people hid them, and that's what I think. And a lot of others have pointed out about that Dead Sea Scrolls, that they hid these to keep them away from the Romans destroying them. Okay, so now some say, oh, look, you can tell they were copying, the Greek from the actual Hebrew, but my philologist that went there and was studying the Greek part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, he said, actually, it's the opposite. You cannot, he says that you can see where they were trying to copy the Septuagint and create the Hebrew. Because Hebrew is a dead language by this time. Okay? It was a dead language. Nobody spoke it. Everybody spoke Greek. Greek was the shit. And so it makes sense. It makes sense. What are you saying now? And the reason it makes sense is, I'll point this out to you, is the way he puts it, there's 300,000 unique specific words in the classical Greek language, the Septuagint type language, okay? He says that there are 1.2 million significant words in the Greek language. There was no other language like it at that time. The Hebrew language only has 8,000 words. So how could you get something like what was written in Greek, so detailed, so technical, from something that is so less technical? It makes sense. It's like taking a college, high school course for biology without knowing anything about the college courses, and then have to go and take the college test for anatomy and physiology. There's no way. The technical differences in what's going on is, and the depth compared to the high school biology book is totally different, just like in Greek compared to Hebrew. Total difference. There's no way you can get all of that out of that little bit. So it's got to be backwards, the opposite way. And I believe he's provided enough evidence for me to believe this. A lot of theologians go against it, but none of them have the physical proof of it. So there are some out there that have studied from him, this same gentleman, that disagree, that they think there is proof within the writings that show that it came from maybe Hebrew before it. And again, though, there really is no physical evidence, but I do understand that idea of writing styles and how to recognize. But the difference here is the professor has been doing it for 35 years, and this other gentleman isn't. You know, he learned from him, but it doesn't mean he's less intelligent. And he's coming up in all these ways. But I think what the other one, or the professor, is saying is that, you know, Greek created all those styles, so it doesn't matter if you say it's a Hebrew style. Greek already created that, and that again is understandable. So, shout out to at Lady Babylon. If you guys ever get a chance, man, check him out. He will teach you some stuff. Now we are back. Let's learn about what the Nazis were trying to do. So, the control of the schools began in March 1933 with the issuing of the first educational decree, which held that German culture must be treated thoroughly. We must get back to the American way. Make America great again. Let's, make sure we teach all of our kids the American values. The Nazi government attempted to control the minds of the young and thus, among other means, intruded Nazi beliefs into the school curriculum. Should I just say the MAGA beliefs into the school curriculum? A major part of biology became race science. And health education and physical training did not escape the racial stress. Geography became geopolitics. Look at geography became geopolitics. The Gulf of America, which in my website I did post the according to maritime laws on how large bodies such as seas and canalways from large waters to inlets and things like how they're named, and usually it's supposed to be according to the laws, a vote amongst the countries that are involved with this, and if they can't come up with the first surefire way, they mix the names together that way. So like the Gulf of Mexico, and Trump saying, "Oh, the Gulf of America now." Cool, whatever, but that's got to be voted on between these two. And I think even Belize should be able to get on it, and most of Central America. That's a lot of countries, right? That live within the Gulf. Am I right or wrong? So why is it just America that says they should name it, when the law and maritime law says these countries need to vote on it? And if they can't come up with something substantial, then the countries' names are supposed to be mixed. So let's call it Americana, the Gulf of Americana. That sounds cool to me, but why just the Gulf of America? Well, then they could take ownership and say, we could drill anywhere we want, and how many remember what happened? Was it 2013, 2011? I can't even remember about the oil burning in the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, that was devastating. Absolutely devastating. Man, I remember them having problems with seafood for a few years after that. So I'm on Bing right now. I always don't trust Google. looking this stuff up. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I still like my Google, but when I'm doing these videos, I'm not playing with it that way. Oh, there's one just in 2023. Gulf Mexico Pemex oil platform fire kills at least two. That's on CNN. 2010, 15 years after Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Okay, okay, so it's 2010, guys. That's that's an oil spill through 5.38 billion dollars have been approved in the Gulf to just try to clean that up. Outstanding. Now this is from NBC News, April 21st, 2025. So it's very recent on that oil spill in 2010, and that's just one. They call it the BP oil spill, the Gulf of Mexico blaze. And this one was in July of 2021. And that is from OSHA dataportal.org. Okay. There's so many of these in the Gulf of Mexico, and this administration wants to go in there and they want to, you know, uh, oil, 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 drill, drill, drill. Uh, it's not worth it. I'm sorry. This is all about wealth and power. And to me, I believe that greed blots the soul. Even in true Christianity, real biblical followings, you'll find that Jesus did not like money in any way. And none. He was even killed for money, people. Come on. You think people are supposed to be rich because of him? You think God's supposed to be giving everybody? Look, Jesus went to the desert for 40 days, right? We know this. And he was tempted by Satan. Sorry, my window's open. Sounds like a good truck, though, huh? But, anyways, he was tempted by Satan. And one of the temptations is Satan showed him all the kingdoms in the world. Satan told him he could have them all if he would just bend the knee to Satan. This is real, people. This is scriptural. You can find that. And you can allow some theologists to tell you, no, it means this or it means that. Just read the words, people. Don't let them tell you what it means. I know most of you are intelligent enough to understand what it means. He was killed for money. He overturned the money changers. The dude really didn't have his own home. He walked around picking wheat out of fields and eating it. Come on, man. That dude was not wealthy. Not at all. So he didn't want to be wealthy. He had better things, He had the kingdom of God that he was working for. And the mystery. Yeah. The mystery isn't in the English Bible, guys. You won't find it in there. Might get a couple hints to it, but if you were raised a Christian, it's really hard for you to stop reading it in the way the Christians told you to read it. It really is. Once you open your eyes and start actually reading some of the things you come across in the English Bible and go, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And I wouldn't even do that. Yeah. But look where we are. We got people saying they're Christians, saying they're Americans, wanting to change our Constitution, people. This is right in our faces. Nobody is really trying to do anything about it. I'm thankful for those judges that are doing what the law and the Constitution says. But he's coming to this line where what happens next? What if? And I don't really want to think about it, but I think we should. I think we should. Well, I'm out of here, brothers and sisters. And I thank you for taking a listen. I want you all just to think, because what the fuck is going on? Peace out. Stay awake, people. All right? You can't be asleep, because people that are asleep, they can easily blend into sleepwalking. Makes sense, don't you? If you just loved your neighbors, if you just loved your neighbor, man, none of this would be going on. All right, peace out. Love yous.